Hello everybody, today we're going to be going over the Pulverize Druid build. This is a pretty good in-game build. You can do this without uniques, however, it does use some uniques, so don't freak out if you do not have the uniques. You are going to need to find a couple of, or I guess one specific dropped legendary, so this might not be something you can do necessarily right off the bat, but there's a way to play it at virtually every stage of the game, but it's probably one of the best in-game builds once you get all the pieces together. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. First off, Vastley's Prayer. This turns your Earth skills into Werebear skills. The reason why we use this is because we run Grizzly Rage, so that lets us use Earth Spike inside of Grizzly Rage. Now, if you don't have Vastley's Prayer, instead of running Earth Spike, just run Maul, and you'll be fine. Next, we have Breastplate of Disobedience. You gain 0.5% increased armor, stacking up to 50%. Now, you can also run the unique Insatiable Fury here, but if you're feeling like you need some defense and whatnot, then it's okay to use this, but you'll have a little bit more damage if you use the Insatiable Fury, because it gives you +2 ranks to all of your Werebear skills. So now, Crashstone, or aspect of the Crashstone, or Crashstone aspect. Earth skills deal 37% more critical strike damage to crowd-controlled enemies. Then you want aspect of Mending Stone. This is going to buff up your Earthen Bulwark, and keep in mind your Earthen Bulwark is a Werebear skill if you have Vastley's Prayer, so it allows you to use that inside of Grizzly Rage. Moving on to Boneweave Treads of the Quicksand. Now this seems like an odd legendary, but this is really important you actually run this, and the reason why is because you have passives in your tree that procs on slowed, stunned, immobilized, but you don't actually have a way to consistently proc anything unless you have this. So this is going to allow you to keep it's like 2 or 3 of your passive damage increasing passes up all the time, as opposed to having to wait for like a stun proc or wait for your trample to knock them back, etc., etc. You could go the other one where it fortifies you with Earth skills. You'll notice that your Pulverizes will hit a little bit harder, but the damage overall is going to be a little bit lower. So it's like, it's kind of a trade-off. I personally prefer the Earth skills slow. I felt like the damage was more consistent and better whenever I had this on. So then we have Shockwave Sargeras. So Pulverize creates a shockwave that travels forward, dealing 144% of its damage to targets in the path. This is the main bread and butter legendary. This is going to be your biggest increase, and this is what really makes the build kind of pop off, I would say, is because it turns you into like a pseudo ranged champion, or you're like a pseudo ranged build at the same time. So it's really good. Then core skills deal up to 51% increased damage based on your amount of fortify. Then Pulverize is now also an Earth skill. This is pretty important that you have this as well, because the dot's actually pretty good, but turning this into an Earth skill makes it to where all of a sudden your Pulverize benefits from all the Earth key passives, all the Earth passives, and it adds a lot of damage. Then we have Ring of the Rampaging Werebeast. Since we are using Grizzly Rage, keeping that up as long as possible is going to be a big help, and it also increases your critical strike damage by 10% when you kill something for the duration. Or critical strikes, you don't have to kill them actually, you just have to get crits. So, that being said, moving on to Spirit Boons. I use Wariness, take 10% reduced damage from elites. I have seen some people go max Spirit. Scythe Talons, Avian Wrath. That is not correct. You want to do, oh no, that is correct, I did the set correctly. Okay, so you want to do Calamity, extend the duration of your ultimate skill by 25%. And then you want to do Masochistic. Critical strikes or shape-shifting skills heal you for 3% of your max life. So that's just going to give you some decent healing. It's going to extend the duration of your Grizzly Rage, and you're going to have better crit and better critical strike damage. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the abilities. So like I was saying before, if you don't have Vastley's Prayer, just go Maul, Enhanced Maul, Fierce Maul. You can go Earth Spike, Enhanced Earth Spike, Fierce Earth Spike, because this build works totally fine without Vastley's Prayer. Especially like the base, like once you have like just the Ursine Strength or the Ursine Horror legendary, which by the way is a legendary aspect you can get from, I think it's like Witchwater out in Hawazar. And then the other one is a drop, but once you get both of those, at a very base level, this build is extremely strong, and you will be able to, if you're struggling to clear anything in like tier 2 right now, you will just absolutely dominate if you just get those 2 legendaries and put them on. Alright, anyway, so we want to go 1 point Heart of the Wild, 3 into Wild Impulses, 15% increased damage to your core skills, and then help generate more Spirit to offset the increase from Wild Impulses. You want Pulverize, you want Enhanced Pulverize, just so you can get a nice overpower proc every 12 seconds, and then some damage reduction from enemies hit by Pulverize. You want to get the Predatory Instinct crit, and then you also want to get the 9% damage reduction while in Werebear form. Come down here, pick up Earthen Bulwark, Enhanced Earthen Bulwark, Preserving Earthen Bulwark. This is going to keep your Fortify up. Do Debilitating Roar, Enhanced Debilitating Roar, and Preserving Debilitating Roar. So that's going to give you another Fortify and another heal on top of reducing their damage dealt by 70%. Come down here, pick up Nature's Reach. Now this seems odd because you think, oh, I'm a Werebear, but trust me, you'll use this damage. You will use this. You are melee, and you can do it all. It's like you are melee and ranged with this one. Trample, Enhanced Trample, Natural Trample, another Fortify, just another good Fortify proc. It also procs Knockback, so it can give you a stun if they get knocked back into range, so pretty solid for helping proc your Earth passives. Go ahead and take Crushing Earth, Safeguard, and Stone Guard. So this one right here is, again, why we need the boots. So if they're slowed, your Earth skills deal 15% increased damage. And then crits will fortify you with Earth skills by 7% of your base life, so more defense. And then while you have over Fortify, your Earth skills deal 12% increased damage. Moving on down here, Nature Magic skills deal 12% increased damage to elites. Then your Earth skills deal 12% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Okay, so this is the one caveat to this build. This is the one multiplier that you're probably not going to be able to use for a little bit unless you have someone in your group rocking vulnerable. However, what you're supposed to do is eventually you're going to use Exploit. What that's going to do is increase your damage to vulnerable targets. And when an enemy's damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. So this is how you're going to eventually proc the vulnerable. So I just went ahead and took it because honestly, there's not a whole lot else that I really thought was all that great. You can't really make use of Quick Shift because you're kind of in Werebear form all the time. So it's not super duper amazing. Then go ahead and grab 3 into Defensive Posture, grab Grizzly Rage, grab Primal Grizzly Rage, and grab Supreme Grizzly Rage. And then pick up the Earthen Might passive. Now the reason why we want this is because restoring all your spirit and making your attacks be guaranteed critical strikes for 5 seconds is massive, and it feels amazing. Like, I tried Ursine's Strength, which is 30% damage increase, so if you want more consistent damage, you can go for Ursine's Strength, but I personally prefer Earthen Might. I think it feels, feels absolutely amazing whenever you proc this. I think Earthen Might is a very fun passive. Alright. So, that being said, that is it for the build, the Spirit Boons, and the skill order. So let's go ahead and hop on into a Nightmare Dungeon. Alrighty, so this is a Feral's Den, tier 16. So the idea behind the Pulverize build is pretty simple. Keep yourself fortified and just start pulverizing. I mean, really, just pay attention to your passive because every 12 seconds you have an overpower, so you want to try to proc that at a good time. You want to make sure you have your slow applied to everything. So this is tier 16. This is almost as high as you can go. I've done 20 with this build, but I wanted to be able to farm a little bit faster so I could level up glyphs, so I bumped it down to about 15, but 20 is as high as you can go before you get World Tier 4 unlocked, if you are not aware. So, and we're fighting about, and I think by the time you get to World Tier, or to tier 20, you're fighting like level 72 enemies or something like that, because it scales up the level. But yeah, so pretty simple. Just stay fortified and blast things. You can see how far that goes, right? So you can actually kind of see how I'm just kind of kiting with Earth Spike and just kind of walking forward. Yeah, you can kind of just do that because, you know, your Pulverize is going to just hit things from 20 miles away. So, and the Earth Spike gives you some mobility. Now, if you don't have Vasili's Prayer, you wouldn't be able to be using Earth Spike, but that's okay. Maul's still fine. And you actually get a little bit more fortified, I think, with Maul anyway, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, and then you want to try to kill as many people as you can while Grizzly Rage is up, just so you can max out that duration. You're never going to keep Grizzly Rage up all the time. It's just not going to happen. Maybe at higher paragons and stuff like that, when you have better cooldown reduction, you'll have it up all the time. But yeah, definitely not. No, definitely not this early in the game. You need like ancestrals and stuff like that to really bump up that build. I think ancestrals are wild. Yep. And one thing too is, and the reason why you run like that slow is you're constantly proccing like 2 extra damage buffs when you have that slow. Whereas if you don't have that slow, I don't think this build has a whole lot of ways. So you'd have the knockback on trample, and then you would have the stun on your earth spike, and that would be the only way you could proc those damage bonuses. So if you have this slow, the damage bonus is way more consistent. I tested it out. You do a little bit less damage, like burst-wise, overall, but the consistent damage is definitely way higher when you run that slow on the boots, because you're just proccing that damage bonus way more often. And it also makes things easier to kite as well with Earth Spike if you want to go that route if you're ever in a tough spot. Because this build is pretty decently tanky. I've definitely played tankier builds, but this one is pretty tanky. So you're in Debilitating Roar, Earthen Bulwark, stuff like that. But let's see. Okay, so we should be getting pretty decently close to the boss here. Pretty simple stuff here. Nothing crazy. Just yeah, see, look at that. Boom, just blew up those elites like nobody's business. I think the highest crit I've seen so far is like 105,000, but there's only up to go right now with any of the builds I do, because I only have so much Paragon unlocked, stuff like that. So only have so much Paragon. Base level's low, just missing a ton of stats. Still have all kinds of stuff to go out and collect. It's going to be a good time. I can't wait to see how these builds progress into the end game. Alright, so for the boss, another thing too with the slow is it helps you build up the stagger as well. If you don't have that slow, that stagger builds up way slower. Right? You can still, this is on 2x speed, but you can still see that this is, like, it's still building decently fast. And then when you hit the stagger, you want to try to make sure you have full spirit for it. Yes, like right there. Oh, I had a nice proc. Do you see how my spirit just jumped up to full right there? That means I procced my Earthen Might, so that means I was getting guaranteed crits for like 5 seconds while he was in that mode. That's why I like Earthen Might. It just gives you some crazy burst RNG. And because of the tectonic spikes and stuff, you have a pretty good chance to proc it, because you're kind of constantly hitting. See, look, there it is again, and boom, he's dead. Alrighty, well, that's going to be it. Like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys next time.